Hey folks, welcome back to Only Best Fancy Novels. My name is Robin, and today I want to talk about The Wings Upon Her Back by Samantha Mills, which is one of the World Fantasy Award nominees to 2025, which makes it a must-read for me. And this was a pretty interesting book. It delves into some very interesting topics. Let's get into what this book is about. So this book we largely follow Zemilai, who is a woman who has lived a life where she achieved everything she ever wanted. She basically became a warrior of the citadel that she lives in, which means she got cybernetically implanted wings upon her back to become a soldier of the Mecha God. But when a crucial mistake results in a pretty catastrophic failure on her side, she finds herself stripped of those wings and forced to confront everything that she's and forced to figure out a whole new way of life, barred from everything she's ever known. So this was a pretty challenging book in terms of the themes that it delves into, and also because of the way that it chooses to engage with those ideas. So first of all, the thing to understand about this book is that it's split into two POVs, and these two POVs they deal with very edgy or very it can read as very disturbing ideas in the way that it goes about them. In the first timeline, we have Zemilai as an adult after she loses her wings, and she's forced to confront the shadier part of this society that she's lived essentially as a privileged person within, and the thing she's forced to do to survive as a result of this. And then in the other timeline, we have a look at her past, when how she became the person that she is, and the influence and the choices that pushed her down that path. So I keep mentioning like the ideas and the themes of this book, and it's primarily about religious zealotry and the dangers of what happens when you become radicalized, and not just that, like the ease in which it happens when you're steeped in a particular culture, in a particular way of life, in a particular mode of thinking. We see this in the early POVs of Zemilai when she was known as Xenia as a child. She grew up as she's a child of scholars, so the expectation was that she would go down that path, but instead she chooses to become a warrior, and and we see that the way that her passion and her ambition, obviously at such a young age, she doesn't realize exactly what it is she's getting herself into. We see the way that this is taken advantage of, the way it's twisted and warped, and the way that she's essentially radicalized as a child, and the role that mentor who trains her, the way that person begins to like the position that person begins to assume in her almost as a peer, as someone that she looks up to, as a role model, essentially. So it's complicated, it's messy, and it shows how easily you can be led astray when you don't necessarily have the tools, or or you don't even realize you have the tools. You don't have the tools, I should say, to understand what exactly it is that's being done to you. But yeah, so that's the early POV, and then the second one, which is Emily as an adult, we see her forced to as one of the winged ones. You know, she's essentially had a privileged position in society, and now that she's lost that, she is forced to confront the seedier parts of this society. She's forced to confront the she's forced to engage with a band of rebels who fight against the way that this society is structured, and just for the sake of survival, she's forced to essentially join this band. And as part of that, she's forced to essentially confront what she did, what she did in her times as a very much a radicalized soldier, and what it truly meant for this society and for her people. And she's forced to confront all of these acts and deeds, and really stop and think about the real the consequences, the cost of it. And she's essentially that's kind of it. She's forced to confront all of that, and not just that. She's forced to revisit the position that mentor had. That she's forced to reconsider that position of that mentor in her life, and now that she has this expanded understanding, to truly understand what it is that person did for her. So it's a very, in terms of emotion, emotionally it's a very messy book. It's a very thought-provoking. It's a very complicated book. This is definitely a book you want to read if you're into character-driven work. And as you can tell from all of that, it gets pretty intense. In terms of the bare bones plot that all of this is wrapped around, so it's fun. He gets the job done, but for the most part, you can tell what the focus is of this book with Samantha. It's like that's the thing about how this book is written. Like, it's very tightly written. It's very focused. So there's not our attention is almost entirely on Zemlai and Xenia, based on which POV we're in. And yes, we do get a little bit of the surrounding supporting characters, but they're really just there as props or catalysts to kind of trigger to kind of stimulate Zemlai and to lead her down these thought paths and these kind of things. So it's a very fascinating book. And then we have the world building itself. Like I said, it's steampunk, but it's not quite. It's almost like a post-industrial kind of, almost like a post-human, post-industrial kind of society where you have gods who reside in the city with different specialties, and Zemlai in particular falls under the mecha god as a warrior. So the technology is, at the same time, the technology is very much kind of steampunky, which is why I keep throwing around that label. But this is a strange world. This is a fantastical world, and it does touch on where it comes to the entire military industrial complex and the way that it churns through people and bodies and that kind of stuff. The essential authoritarianism of it all. It does touch on all these things as part of Zemlai's experience, especially after she's forced out of that privileged upper echelon that she previously kind of was in. So in terms of the content of this book, it was very fascinating. That being said, I never quite got emotionally engaged with it, which is sad, because on paper this book has a lot of things that would normally excite me to read about and engage me, but this book never quite hooked me emotionally. And I can't even think of one bad thing I want to say about it. So it's not like I consider it a bad book in any way. I can't think of anything negative where it comes to this book. It's just that it never gripped me emotionally, and because of that, it ultimately ended up being an okay read. That being said, it is one of the books on the World Fantasy ballot, and I read that ballot every year, because one thing I'm always guaranteed it is that ballot always has some of the most interesting fantasy I'm going to read in any particular year, and that's a sentiment that definitely fits the wings upon her back. So yeah, a rather interesting book. I don't know, maybe I'm reading too heavily into this. Maybe it's not all about that. Maybe it's just something else. But that's kind of where my thoughts went as I was reading this book and kind of witnessing events as they unfolded. So yeah, that's my thoughts upon about The Wings Upon Her Back by Samantha Mills. If you've made it this far into the video, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.